Hello, good morning. I decided to make a follow-up video to last week's video about depression because following that video I received many questions about depression, about how to respond to depression, about what it's like to be depressed. And I thought it would be ironic and remiss of me to talk so openly and then not answer these questions. So I thought I would dedicate one more video to this topic. Now, don't worry, this isn't going to become a regular thing on Archaeosoup. This is a place of learning, fun, and historical inquiry. But in the spirit of last week's video, I thought it was important to address these questions and hopefully help some of you out there to understand what I was talking about in a little bit more detail, and hopefully help you to understand people who are going through depression a little bit more. So all the questioners, all the people who sent questions in, I'll keep them anonymous because some of these questions are not the best in the world, as it were. But hopefully all the answers will be useful and helpful. So question number one: is depression just being unhappy? No, depression is not just being unhappy. Depression is, in many ways, it's a reality-altering state of mind. It is one where you're not aware, often, that you are in that bubble. To put it another way, if you're just unhappy, in normal circumstances, you know that if you go and do something else, you can make yourself happy. So you can maybe put a comedy film on, or tell a joke, or go and talk to your favourite grandma, and they'll perk you up, they will make you happy. When you're depressed, it is so encompassing, so all encompassing, that nothing you feel, and to a certain extent it's true, that nothing really can alter your state of mind. And often you feel as though you're the cause of it as well. When you're unhappy, you don't feel as though you're the cause of it. You know that, oh, I've hurt my thumb, oh, I'll go and put a bandage on. Whereas if you're depressed, you don't know that you've hurt your thumb. You just think your thumb is innately hurt worthy. It's hard to explain, but that it is not the same as just being unhappy. But we'll come back to that in a moment. Good question, but we'll return to it. How do you know when you're depressed? Well, this is sort of linked to the first question, in much as I think often you don't know. It creeps up on you. It's a bit like being in love. People say, well, how do you know when you're in love? Well, you don't know until you're in it. And again, love creeps up on you in that sense. But there will be just a drip by drip element of building stresses and factors. If one is depressive, as it were, if one has the tendency, be that a chemical background in the brain or a sort of a psychological disposition, it'll build up until one day you just don't want to get out of bed, or you just find yourself thinking things which are completely illogical about yourself and about your place in the world. It just comes on you. It just happens. And in that sense, you don't necessarily know when you're in it, because suddenly that's your reality. It's not. You can go, oh, I'm depressed. You will spot it eventually. You will spot it, but you don't. It's not a decision, and it's certainly not something which you can easily be aware of, because it does change how you view yourself in the world. But again, I say we'll come back to that. Can you catch depression? I don't know if this is actually a real question or a serious question, hence anonymity, I guess. No, you can't catch depression. If a depressed person coughs on you, you're not going, oh, I've got depression now. No. You can have I suppose a disposition towards it. For example, it can run in families. For example, in my family, depression it does run in the family, and that's linked with, as far as I'm aware, brain chemistry. So things like serotonin levels, this kind of thing. You can inherit those tendencies, but you can't catch depression. No. Why did we not notice that you've been close to depression for the past couple of months? Well, if you didn't notice, I'm happy that you didn't. You didn't notice if you didn't notice, because I very deliberately not wanted to make it obvious. I've been trying to get on with life, you know. I've been trying to actually, for me, it's a form of sort of self-medication. It's just to continue carrying on, keep on carrying on, and also try to remind myself of the reasons why I shouldn't feel a certain way. So I've been trying to focus on the good things in life. For example, my lovely wife. I suspect though some of you possibly have noticed, and you just haven't wanted to say anything. For example, I've been apologising an awful lot more for a lack of certain types of content. My range of videos, for example, in our case, it hasn't been quite so wide for a couple of months. But if you haven't noticed, that's just because I haven't wanted to, you know, put it out there. But I suspect some of you have. How do you stop yourself feeling like a weirdo? Again, anonymity is necessary. Weirdo. Well, who says I don't feel like a weirdo? I do feel like a weirdo, of course I do. And when you're depressed, you feel even more like a weirdo, because you think, oh, I'm so weird, I'm so wrong. But I suppose I'd say two things. On one level, the word weirdo is quite playful, and I suppose I'd say I'm proud to be a weirdo. You know, I like having a perspective on the world which is a bit different. That's not necessarily intrinsically linked with depression, though. That's just to do with I suppose, certain some people might call it what's the word? Eccentricity, as it were. But there's another element to the word weirdo which is, I suppose, a bit more vicious, and I stop myself from feeling like a weirdo by reminding myself that I'm not. By reminding myself that actually about 25% of people will suffer some form of mental illness in their lives. So that's 1 in 4. So if you go to school, a quarter of that school is likely at some point in their lives to have some form of mental illness. Depression is obviously part of that. The same goes for an office building or wherever you work or play. So I stop myself from feeling like a weirdo by reminding myself that I'm not. I'm absolutely not alone, and neither are you if you feel like that. How serious can depression really be? Surely there has to be other real factors which lead to suicide. Again, anonymity was necessary for that question. Depression can be absolutely all-encompassingly serious. It can be the total sort of sum of seriousness. Because it does change the way you feel about yourself and your place in the world. It filters everything for you. That's why it's so serious. It's like changing your head. It's like changing your eyes. It's like altering the language that everyone talks. It's a filter. It alters your perception of everything. So it's very real to you when it's happening to you. It's not reality, but it's real. If that makes sense. It's not actually, it doesn't alter the world, but it alters how you see the world, which is a serious problem. And actually, in that sense, I've lost 2 friends to depression. One friend had objectively no reason to do anything to themselves. They were going to a very good university. They were doing very well in that university. Their parents loved them. There was no pressure on them to achieve a certain thing in life, but they felt as though there was. They killed themselves. So actually, depression is the real, and when you're in it, it is real. So yeah, maybe you need to rethink that question, or rethink your terms, perhaps. How are we supposed to understand a condition which comes and goes? I would say depression never really goes away. If you have the potential, the tendency, it's always in the background, and that's definitely true for me. It's a bit like having a cold sore, I suppose. You don't notice it all the time, that sore on someone's lip. The virus is always there. The potential is always sitting there just beneath the skin, and that's why it spreads. It's because actually other people will kiss the person who's got the cold sore. Now, obviously that's not the same for depression, but the point is it's not always visible. But when it flares up, goodness me, you notice it, you're like, oh, blimey. Hope I haven't kissed that person. And in that sense, it's a similar reaction that people have to depression. People suddenly get very aware of you and very... So that's probably a good way of understanding it, is that it doesn't come and go. It's always there. But like a cold sore, it has peaks and troughs. It has moments when it's more visible and moments when it's, to all intents and purposes, invisible. What should I do if my friend is depressed but still managing to get out and about? Well, that's an interesting question. The fact that you're acknowledging that it's hard for someone who's depressed to get out and about is a great thing, so kudos to you for that. Just going, for example, I don't know, going to work, going to university, doing everyday tasks which you don't feel have any point to them, is an achievement. And in that sense, actually, yeah, well done for acknowledging that. I would say don't do anything. Just support them in what they're doing. If they know you know they're depressed, then certainly ask them how they're doing. They'll probably either have a strange answer to that, so either really tell you honestly how they're feeling, or they will they'll put on a brave face. Oh yeah, I'm right, not too bad. Yeah, but don't necessarily push it too much. Just support them in the fact that they're continuing with their daily lives, and at a certain point, when they start to hopefully come out of it, just tell them how great they've done. Congratulate them on the fact that they've achieved that. But don't just tread carefully. I'd say tread carefully. There's nothing that you have to do. You don't have to do anything if your friend is depressed. Just be there and be available for them if you can be. But also as well, don't give up your own life to support them. Just be there, be around, be constant and consistent. Is this why you've let your beard grow out? Well, actually, yeah, I suppose my beard is a bit big, isn't it? I haven't really. Usually, I'd sort of cut it down for the get away, like a machete, cut it down for the summer. Partly, I suppose. Partly, yeah. I do tend to let my beard grow when I'm feeling a bit naff. But also as well, actually, it's been a bit of an experiment. I will be cutting my hair or having my hair cut soon. I might continue to keep the beard. I might sort of try and comb it a bit, maybe style it. So in part, yes, I guess, but also no. Is there a way for someone who isn't depressed to visualise depression? Well, Mrs. Soup has often said that she visualises my tendency, as it were, as a green bubble. And she said it's like a force field, and that this force field will deflect good things. It will deflect compliments and comments which are positive, and only let in bad things, or it'll even actively shift good things to being bad. So I remember we were having breakfast one Saturday morning. It was a BHS cooked breakfast, very nice. Well, not high quality anyway, but good greasy food. Anyway, we were eating, and I was feeling, very low. And she pointed out. She goes, "Do you see what you've just done there? You've just taken a compliment and you've ignored it. It's as though it didn't happen." And she said it's literally like seeing bullets bounce off a green force field that's surrounding me. And I thought, actually, that's quite a good way of visualising it. And this is what I was coming back to. This is where we come back to that question of the how it feels, or how do you know when you're depressed, and whether or not it's just being unhappy. It's not. It's something which you're not choosing to do. You just get into a really self-destructive habit of just ignoring everything which is good, and especially about yourself. So she often says, if it happens, she'll say, oh, she'll point out that the good thing is just bounced off. So maybe someone compliments our kids, or compliments a video I've done, or talks about, talks about a piece of art that I've made, or we're talking about something and they say, oh, you're very clever, or whatever. It'll bounce off. I'll deflect it. Oh, I won't even acknowledge the compliment, and that's a way of visualizing it. I mean, it doesn't give you a sense of what it feels like, but you can. I suspect you'll be able to spot, or you'll be able to visualize the green force field and all the good stuff bouncing off. yeah. So yeah, I suppose that's a way for someone who isn't depressed to visualise it. Not necessarily to understand it, but to visualise it. It is like a reality altering force field. Finally, lots of people have been asking, how can we help in everyday life, and also in a broader sense, help people with depression, that is. Well, I think in everyday life, be patient. Be patient. Be aware. Don't overly Don't overly wrap the world in cotton wool for people who are depressed. Obviously, we need to live in the real world. That's the point. Actually, we need to be brought back to the real world. So just be patient, I suppose. In everyday life, be patient, be aware, and don't patronise people with depression. More broadly speaking, though, you can, depending on what part of the world you're in or whereabouts you are, you can get in touch with local healthcare institutions. You can talk to mental health charities, for example, and they will tell you how you can help in your local area. There are too many options, basically. So contact your local relevant people. So, for example, your local NHS trust in Britain, and from there you'll get some really good advice. Again, a bit like with the last video, I don't want to throw out some platitudes about, oh well, the Samaritans or whatever. Just investigate it, and a good place to start may be going to your local GP and asking there. If you want to help people with depression, then go and ask there. Don't dive too much into doing it yourself, because depressed people have a way of extending that force field bubble around other people, and a way of starting to bring other people down with them, if that makes any sense. And that's not to say that depressed people are dangerous, but it can be dangerous to open yourself too much up to this unrealistic mindset that a person finds himself in. So be very careful, but talk to a local healthcare professional, or GP, or the local NHS trust, and they'll be able to tell you how you can help out. So there you go, folks. This has been quite a long video, but hopefully a useful video. As I say, I won't be this won't be a focus of Archaeosoup going forward, as it were. But I thought that just to fit in with the spirit of the previous video, I simply had to answer these questions publicly. So there you go. Hopefully this has been useful, and hopefully you've had your questions answered in a way which is helpful, or in a way which has challenged your assumptions or your initial question. Thank you very much for listening, and feel free to ask any questions in the future. I'll answer them by email if and when I can. As ever, until next time, do look after yourselves, do take care, and if you are feeling the way that I've been describing, as I said last time, just know you're not alone. Just look after yourself, and if you want to, talk to someone. If you don't want to, as I said previously, just keep on breathing, and you'll manage. You'll get through. And people care. People do care about you. Okay, as I say, until next time, do take care. Bye bye.